Alrighty, I'm excited. Hi, everybody. This is David StarrTouch, and we're gonna get these on so I can hear myself and make sure everything's working properly as I go. My name's David StarrTouch, founder of Survivor to Hero, and today I wanted to do a vlog about basically values, virtues, and vices, and about how these can actually be treasures, like really powerful transformational treasures, if you want to work on changing your life or transform your life in any way. Maybe you've been suffering from chronic illness or like autoimmune issues, compassion fatigue. Maybe you're just exhausted. I'm going to be sharing with you today about how your values, vices, and virtues are actually really great tools to transform your life. But before we do so, as I mentioned in a previous blog, I'm going to be every blog I'm going to be telling you the technology we use in case you're interested in getting your own messages out there. I'm really a big fan of more information and more services out there. There's really scarcity is only a concept, and that if we help each other get more information out there, we can kind of raise the collective in general. So serving the community. So this is the Rode NT1. This is one of my favorite microphones. I do have a dynamic microphone, the Procaster, for a little more louder situations, but this is truly my favorite. Now the downside is that you can hear everything, so it doesn't work very good on a busy, loud day. But we're running through the Rodecaster Pro, and then the excuse me, the microphone output is going, or headphone output of one of the Rodecasters is going into the SL2. Just for the sake of speed, and I will be editing these at another point, but right now I'm just going to release these videos as they are, so you get the content, you get me as I progress, and as the channel progresses. So the Rodecaster Pro, the NT1, and me at Canon SL2. So as we're getting started now, today we're talking about vices, virtues, and values. Now, vices, virtues, and values. What does that actually mean? Or values, vices, and virtues. So your value systems are the lexicon of what you're made up of. Now, there's no two people alike, right? There's no there's no unique snowflakes, or sorry, there's only unique snowflakes. There's no two snowflakes that are alike in theory, but if we were to measure all the snowflakes in the world ever created, I'm sure we'd find some duplicates, because despite nature being fractals and unique every time, there's always a chance that some is duplicated if you watch it long enough, statistically speaking. So no two people are going to have the same value systems. You may find someone who's very similar in value systems, and then you're going to be able to really connect with them and relate to them on common topics. Sorry, little OCD there. But so these common topics are going to be what's really important to you. Now, values can be a little complicated, so I like breaking them up into vices and virtues to help us understand where our value systems are coming from, because they're really good like litmus tests and points there. So, but before we get into that, boundaries, one of the things I wanted to start with is boundaries, because boundaries can be this fantastic way of figuring out what our values and virtues are. And this has been burning on my heart. Like, I had this in me and I wanted to get it out, and I tried to write this blog like a dozen times, and I just couldn't get past the first or second sentence. And because what I really wanted to talk about was these values and virtues and the vices, but I kept getting stuck on boundaries, because boundaries are the outside part. So what is a boundary? It's a limit or a line that divides something. So according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, it's something that points out or shows a limit or an end or a dividing line. Now, we therapists and coaches are all about boundaries. We're like setting boundaries to help us, improve our lives and fix things like that. It's a really hot topic. Most importantly, I think boundaries, a really strong, healthy boundary, can stop the bleeding. It can stop the energy draining. And to quote myself, they're important to stop the bleeding of energy when in place, they are honored. There we go. they restore vitality. So with a boundary, you are creating space and structure for the whole universe in the world to work around you, your field and how you function. Now, a lot of empaths and sensitive people, they will have soft boundaries because they're feeling everything around them. And when they put up a hard boundary, it's very clear. It's like, I don't do this, or I do this, or this is how I feel. And then everybody knows. But because they're so sensitive, sometimes they accommodate other people. And that's the people pleasing part. That is very problematic. So I actually am a firm believer that autoimmune diseases and a lot of health issues stem from messy or weak boundaries. And if we look closely at the boundaries enough, you'll find they actually go to our belief systems and, most importantly, our value systems. Our value systems directly influence our belief systems. Now, how do we explain value systems? So, family values, that's a really common one. There's a lexicon of what are your recreational values, your business practice values. Let's see, what's a few other ones I mentioned? Your ethical values. What do you believe is ethical, and this is how people should behave. These are all very important things. So the collection of your values becomes this very unique snowflake-like experience that helps define you. Now, ironically, these values can become out of balance and out of control depending on how much weight we give them. And so at various times in our life, we weight and value these at different things. That's why it's very difficult to find someone exactly like you, and how people can change over time is because your values are changing with time, just as you do. So this is where the prioritizing comes in, based off our life choices and circumstances, and how when your values get tested, it's when times are hard. So when things are really bad, or things are very difficult or stressful, or even happy, but your values get tested. What's important? What are you giving priority to? And you can often look at your time as like time boundaries and whatnot of what values are most important to you at the time. And this is a very key part of your character. So compassion fatigue often occurs when your boundaries when you're not taking enough time for yourself, when you're not resourcing yourself. And honestly, a lot of people who've experienced trauma have a compassion switch turned on. So they see other people going through something difficult and their empathy kicks in. Or they've experienced a trauma and you see someone else going through that trauma and you want to help them. So in theory, helpers, counselors, social workers, these are all people who've done a lot of training and work, but some people haven't done the therapy part for their own traumas. Others have. But either way, no matter how resourced or trained or prepared you are, if you're in a field long enough and you're not resourcing yourself and adding new energetic fuel to your system, you become drained. You're giving a lot of energy, so you need to refill that energy. It's a pretty simple concept that I think most people get. Housewives, stay-at-home moms, in like the 50s, even up to, I'd say, late 90s to 2000s, where a lot of that was there, women were often taking care of the family. And then as women started going to work, and then men were working and women were working, and yet women would still be delegated due to cultural norms or whatnot in the U.S., taking care of the house and cooking and cleaning and doing this. And then men would often just be doing the recreational things or in front of the TV, socializing with friends, and women are still hosting these events. And women would become drained and under-resourced. So, and then eventually Mama's Little Helper was the benzodiazepines that started showing up. And that's actually what we used to call them, was Mama's Little Helper. Okay, so vices, that's an example. It's like being drained. A vice shows up where we begin to use a substance. Now, this can show up in so many different ways. Sometimes it's procrastination, not doing something that you want. And compassion fatigue or being drained or anything like that, this can happen in a lot of different ways. So I'm going to talk about the vices first. Let's say maybe you're drinking a glass of wine, that extra glass of wine or extra bottle of wine, you have at dinner because you've had a really long week and you like wine. Maybe it's staying out too late, and you're frequently going out more with friends, and you're staying up later at night. Maybe you're binge watching that show really late when you really need your sleep. And normally, when you're in balance, you'd make healthier choices. Maybe it's on those healthier choices, maybe it's eating more sugar or more junk food, and you're stress eating, but not just stress eating. You're eating. Well, junk food's the best way to put it, right? You're eating things that lots of sugar or processed foods instead of taking the time to cook or enjoy a meal or food that would nourish you more. Maybe, and this is another one, maybe it's retail therapy. That's really, really common. Stressed out, especially with Amazon now. Go to your phone, you'll get a moment at work, and you end up buying something, and it's like, click, buy now, done. But it gives you a sense of personal agency. So you've got some control in your life when you're feeling out of control or stressed. You're doing something for you. In a way, we're trying to nurture ourselves, but these can be vices when they're become out of balance. There's nothing wrong with buying things off Amazon, or nothing wrong with some wine with dinner, or spending time with friends. It's when it doesn't serve the rest of your life, and it's becoming out of balance. And I think, again, sickness, autoimmune issues, we become stressed when we become exhausted. We get sick. There's a lot of people with the cold right now going around the area. And ironically, or not, it's right around finals time, where finals just finished, and now everybody's getting sick in the Boulder, Colorado, where CU is. And so this virus is just kind of going around. And a lot of people have been stressed, under-resourced, their immune system, but even healthy people are getting sick. So it's not just like, you can't just do a one-size shoe fits all. You really have to look at where these vices are coming from and how the vices are actually protecting your values. So you might value having a kind heart. You might value being there for your friends, or value having fun. And these vices creep in to take advantage of some of these values to try to resource you. So internal family systems is a type of psychology or is a form of psychotherapy where we look at the whole person as like a ship. And there's a captain of a ship, which is your mindset, your ego. There's all of the victim energies, and those are the exiles, those bad feelings, the sad feelings, the traumas, and things like that we don't want to look at. So we just kind of push them out of the way. They're exiles, hide them. Now, but those feelings are still within you. And so when you're under-resourced, they start rattling their chains and being upset. And then we have the firefighters, because the exiles want attention and want healing and pain to go away, and they're willing to do anything. I mean, if they need to light a fire to get things going, to get attention, that's what they'll do. Now, your firefighters are your vices. The firefighter's job is to keep the ship from burning down, no matter what. And when you're under-resourced, you are basically in a vulnerable position, in a vulnerable area. So the idea is to keep you moving, make you a moving target. We're going to because there's predators in the area, so they want to keep you moving and going versus just stopping. Because if you stop and you fall and you are sleeping too much, and that's where the depression parts kicks in, that you're not doing as much. But as long as you're not looking at the problem or focusing on the negatives, and they can keep you moving, it's a win, right? So firefighters their whole job is distraction and entertainment, or hiding the uncomfortable feelings, or keeping you going when you're on empty. This is like a shot of adrenaline, okay? So when you have no resources, how do you keep going? Well, you get that shot of adrenaline, just like if you're having anaphylactic, your body begins to compensate to get back in homeostasis, and you get this burst. Well, what goes up comes down, and that's where it taps from your life energy, your systems, your immune system specifically, shuts down for the fight or flight response, because those resources need to go to sustaining you. When you have adrenaline, your immune system is not running. Your sympathetic and the parasympathetic are completely out of balance. So one activates the sympathetic, and the parasympathetic turns it off. Sympathetic nervous system is really active, parasympathetic is not. So the parasympathetic, when that's in place, when you're calm, you're in restorative, and there's not as much adrenaline. When you're in the vices mode, adrenaline's hitting you because you're doing more or dopamine, or things to kind of encourage you, like that little bit of alcohol or the fun, things that are exciting or interesting. Okay, so these basically vices are things that we partake in, But what we really need is to provide space to allow ourselves to heal. Now, the vices are protecting our value systems of doing these other things, and that's where the priorities begin to get weighted differently. And helping people is my vice, but eating healthy is also a value, but helping people is more. And so I'm not eating healthy, but I'm trying to help people, and then I become under-resourced. Kind of see where I'm going with this. So I want to share with you 3 ways in which you can kind of change this process. You can reboot it. It's pretty simple. This is the way to kind of allow yourself to start to heal and to reflect on what really matters to you. So just when you get sick, that's really what the body's doing. It's slowing you down. There's a natural reset process with illness. When we get sick, we can't, it's even hard to think, but we can't move, we can't do all these other vices, we can't go out and do these things, we don't have the energy, our body's fighting some illness, and that takes priority. With autoimmune disease, your immune system is fighting you, it's out of control, and it's trying to bring you back into balance through this existential crisis, through this pain, because pain's designed to get our attention. So what I first ask people to do is I would say, what is most important to you right now? This is a very simple list of your values. It's not going to be all of them, but just what's important to you right now, the most important thing in your life. List maybe 3 things, but see what shows up. Now, from this list, if you're having trouble with the values, just think what matters to you. And then once you've identified some of these values, what are some of the virtues of those things, of those value systems? What are the virtues of that? Kindness, integrity, authenticity, fun, entertainment, excitement, growth, challenging yourself. Personal growth can be a vice where you're chasing it all. Or yoga, like you're chasing these things all the time, but you're not really integrating them. So once you have that, there's this is the hard question, is how have the vices been protecting you from your value systems when those virtues became out of balance in your life? So how did those vices show up? Look at the origin of the vices. If you can trace it back, you can see that moment in which you begin to fell out of balance. It's often to see sometimes like, how did we get here? That's the starting point. This is just to understand yourself, to provide the answer to the existential question, how did I get here? What went wrong? It's a starting point. It is not something you need to overthink about. It's just simply identify it. So this is how coaching is different than therapy. We're not going to dig too much in the past. We just need to figure out this moment. We don't need to go back to growing up in life and ruminating. That doesn't serve you because you can't change any of that now. Save that for therapy. This right now is about making your life better in the moment. So here's the challenge. I want you to pick one thing. All right, maybe it's something like a self-care practice, very, very simple. Maybe it's a boundary to support your self-care practice, going to bed at 9 or only going out with friends once a week or 2 times a week. Maybe reducing or eliminating the consumption of a particular food or sugar or substance. Maybe it's THC, maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's some other drug, LSD, a psychedelic. Maybe it's something that you have become a vice. It's become a crutch that you've been leaning on, and it's not serving your life anymore. But maybe it's a lifestyle change, literally going for walks or exercising, doing something of exercise once a week. But don't overdo it. Don't make it a big thing. Just pick one little thing, and maybe it's eating clean, healthy foods with micronutrients. All right. So pick one thing that you want to change, and we're only picking one right now for this exercise. Then I want you to do that thing, commit to it. All right. This is going to become the cornerstone that you're going to rebuild your life. You're going to rebuild your life upon this one cornerstone. And then once we have this one thing that you can count on, it becomes a hard boundary that can help you build around it, because this is the one thing you can count on, this one thing that you're committing to. And you're going to fail from time to time, but you fail fast, you fail quick, and you go back to this boundary, because this is coming from a value-based system. So this change is something that you do want to do, which makes it a little easier. We just have to find the right way to do it. And this is one of the secrets of motivation, is you find you tap into the value systems because this is a core part of who you are, and they motivate you more over time. So what I would say is this one thing that you're going to pick, and you feel free to change it, make sure you can do it for a year. That's my challenge. Commit to it for a year. What is this one thing you can commit to for a year? Now, you might have to go through on your list, and that's actually, I added this later so you can generate some more information. Now, I would love to know what came up for you in this video, and or the blog if you read that. And for this challenge, what is that one thing that you're going to commit to working on for the year? And then if you feel like sharing it and you feel like being a little more vulnerable, what are some of your vices? You know, other people might relate, so I'd love to hear as well. I know some of my vices is procrastination. Actually, it's become a vice. There's also, I would say going to the movies all the time is a vice. Sometimes that ties in procrastination. So I can look at this a lot of different ways. Sugar, I don't even like to say that, but it's a vice. Things like that. Energy drinks keeping me going at the hospital when I'm like exhausted. That's a vice. But it's a vice that's protecting me in my main virtue. But it's also, if I'm not careful, I get drained, I get under-resourced. So you can kind of see how that works. So I would love to hear this. Again, thank you so much. Leave a comment, a like, subscribe to the video. Check out my blog, davidstarrtouch.com. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, as well as Instagram, where I'm mainly doing things on Instagram and on the Facebook page, David StarrTouch, and posting videos here and on the blog. So I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you also would like to do some more of this work, my services page on davidstarrtouch.com, I'm happy to work with you individually. We will focus specifically on your problem and laser it down. I'm fantastic at doing these 15-minute laser coachings as a part of my packages as well. And yeah, okay. So this long video, I apologize for that, but I'm just going to sign off now. The name is David StarrTouch. One day I'll cut this and make it simpler. Namaste. Wishing you a beautiful day.